Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast for Black Women Connect Vancouver. Girl, you know it. So I'm the founder of Black Women Connect Vancouver, which started in 2017. And Black Women Connect Vancouver is a collective of women who come to inspire, empower, and leverage our strengths and embrace our diverse experiences. It is a community where we can build meaningful relationships and celebrate the beauty of our Black womanhood. I hope that you enjoy it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Girl, You Know It. Today, we're talking about your hair journey. And so I'm your host, Nataizya, founder of Black Women Connect Vancouver.
And I'm Palesa, and your other host, the project coordinator.
And I'm Elle. I was trying to cut off Palesa. I'm a volunteer and community engagement coordinator.
Oh, okay. Claim it.
Okay. Titles. Moving on up. So thank you for joining us. So we're excited to talk about this topic because we've had different hair journeys in our lives. And so growing up as kids, I mean, we've all had either traumatic experiences with people touching our hair or different hairstyles we tried or our parents tried on us, or for school with Palesa, maybe you had to have natural hairstyles. So I'm excited to hear kind of all our stories. I don't think I know your stories about your hair journey. So let's start. I'm going to pick Elle.
We're diving in. So I was born and raised in Vancouver. So there wasn't a lot of Black people in general. My mom is from Kenya, so she would do our hair at home, mostly because there was 3 girls and it was just cheaper and less expensive to do it that way. But throughout my elementary school journey, I would go from having braids to having my hair out and that hot comb. Oof, that hot comb. The you'll hear it and it just takes you back. And I remember that. And I think it was interesting because my classmates had never really seen anybody like me with hair like me, right? So when my hair would change, it would be, oh gosh, this dramatic thing. They were so shook at that my hair would change. If I didn't tell them that my hair wasn't real, they'd be like, you lied about your hair. I've had loss of friendships over me not disclosing that my hair is not my hair. So yeah. It's so wild. It's so weird. And again, this is before we were talking about, being a Black person in Canada, being a Black woman and that kind of hair. And I was also a kid, essentially, 10th, 11, 12. You're still a kid. You still don't even know what, you can feel what race is, but you still can't articulate that, right? So you're all alone, you have your sisters, but they are also trying to go through their own journey. And I remember when I was 10 and they were doing lice checks at school. Oh gosh, they were doing lice checks at school. And our hair just tends to pull dandruff and it just holds it in a certain way because of the coils. Yeah. So the people who were checking our hair mistakenly said I had lice. And they're like, you have lice all over your head. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I'm not itchy. There's nothing there. But of course, when I went home, it was this thing where I have to do a treatment. I have to do whatever. And my father, who I'm estranged from, and we'll get into that as another time, decided that instead of doing the treatment, he was gonna cut off all my hair. And I just remember 10-year-old me crying. My mother's at work. She comes home to this has happened. She has not been consulted on this. She's like, I could have gone and done, and he just had done it. And we're sitting there crying, and 10-year-old Michelle had to go back to school and again, navigate that world of you had long hair yesterday. Also, we heard that you had lice and now you have short hair. What's going on? And I grew up with guys and when you're 10, you're guys have cooties, but also they're cute. So it's I look just my whole self-esteem was shattered. And it took me a long, long time to like be okay with that. I mean, obviously I'm not, because like I was telling you ladies, I was today years old when I realized that the reason why I don't like wearing my hair short or wearing my hair out is because of that incident. It didn't put me in a comfortable place where I was in control of my hair. And so whenever I think about short hair, even though it looks beautiful on so many people, like my sister Nick, she has her hair short and it's gorgeous. I just don't feel comfortable. I have to like go the opposite way, swing the opposite pendulum and have the super long hair, which is wild and like insane that like your brain like tries to protect you, right? And does like self-preservation, like get long hair and you'll fit in, you know, get long hair and you'll match the aesthetic that like will get you hired and get you like respect and stuff. Oof, I'm just like feeling it in my heart right now.
I feel it in my heart too. That is, yeah. When you texted us that, I was like, wow, that is deep. That's some suppression. That's some real suppression. And I even said afterwards, like a lot of my vault hair memories were starting to resurface. And I was just like, ooh, I don't know if this is where I want to go. I don't know if I want to do this. But I can definitely relate to like, you know, not having any control over your hair when you were younger, from, you know, either school regulations. If you wanted to leave your hair out, it had to be in braids because obviously, you know, when you're younger and you're playing as a kid, you don't really care about appearances. You're like, I'm in this body, I can see, I can operate. That's all that matters, right? And then as you grow up, you know, you start caring about appearances, but also the society around you starts to care about your appearance. And so at school, it had to be a certain length. It couldn't look a specific way. And so that was very annoying. And then I remember this one holiday break after school. I was so excited to take the braids out. And then my hair had kind of grown. At that point, we started watching videos and like talking about split ends, and like people thought that they were like hairstylists of the family. So there goes my aunt. She's like, no, come over. Don't go to the salon. We don't have to pay to get your hair cut. Let me get those ends off for you. So she starts getting into the ends. And I think my hair was probably like shoulder length. And it was just like a little bit of ends that she was supposed to cut off. So she cuts them off, but then she cuts them like uneven. And so obviously all this time she's trying to like level it up. And she like almost cut all of my hair off my head. So that was pretty traumatic. Yeah. I don't even think I've still forgiven her for that. So that was quite something. Then I had to go back obviously to school and my hair looked different. And like, then it was also about me, wrapping my head around this idea of like the way that hair shapes your face and how like sometimes long hair makes your face look slimmer, and then short hair kind of like there's no way to hide in a sense, and then also like the weight issue got into place, and like then it was like how do I fit in, how do I manage, how do I take my chubbiness and make it sexy. And it's like, long hair makes me look a certain way, or like this type of hair makes me look this specific way. Curly hair does this, or whatever the thing is. And it was just a lot. It was just a lot.
Oh. Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, even for me, remember I was like, I don't think I really have a hair journey. And then when I started talking to you, I'm like, wait, I do. Like there's definitely been some traumatic events in my life with my hair. Let me see. Yeah. So I guess growing up in Holland, I would say, because there wasn't anyone really to do our hair. So my mom like knew how to do hair, and she, would help at this one salon, like black hair salon or whatever, but she mostly did our hair and she just had to learn her own skills. So my mom did a lot of our hairstyles growing up, whether it be natural. And then I think started actually relaxing our hair in Holland, just because it was easier for her to kind of like do all her hair. And then we moved and then we did the hot comb thing and stuff, and, church in her little like frilly socks and everything had to be prim and proper. But then you leave church because you're playing outside and it's like, your hair was a crazy, like all Javanese pictures for like school days and anything like all our photos are wild. Like, it's like insane. I don't even know. People are like, did your parents even do your hair? I was like, they did. We just like, I don't know what happened. Like everywhere. It's like either like I had like pigtails that were like this, or like my hair was like standing up and like this. It was a mess. So anyways, Yeah, but it's cute. And then we moved to Saskatchewan, and at the time, or in Regina, there wasn't really that many Black people. There are now, but at the time we moved, so we would find like whatever Black family would come at the time, or they would do, or mom continued to do our hair. And then like whatever other family was there, then like they would kind of do our hair for us. Like, oh, my daughter does hair. And like, it was always like 6 hours, 12 hours later kind of thing. But I remember one time my mom did Javanese hair. I don't find it common here because it's an African tradition where it's like the threading of your hair to stretch it. And so she threaded her hair, but she did it in the terms of more like a tribal look. So it wasn't like threaded, so it was down, or we could put in ponytails. It was like threaded, and it kind of looked like, the best way to explain it is the kids called us, it was like a cage on our heads, because she like threaded it so it went on top, which is normal tribal thing. And she like tied it, and then kids would like put stuff in like my sister's eye hair, like in school and stuff, and like touch it to like see like how is it standing up, and like, yeah, so like that happened, and we just had to explain. And then the next day, Jeff and I took it out, we were just like horrified because like kids were just like way too aggressive on her hair. And so that was a little traumatic for me. And then anytime I did braids, people touched it all the time. Like, I just feel like living in Regina, like majority white people, like everyone's just always amazed at like the switching of like short hair to long hair, short hair to long hair. And it's like, why is it curly today? How did you curl it? You just put it in hot water. And it's like, I don't want to explain this to you. Yeah, I'm not explaining. So we started the not explaining very young at a young age. And then there was a time I just like decided just to cut my hair really short. I just was like looking at everyone. I was like, oh, these girls look so good. So I just was like, I'm gonna cut it. So I went to this girl who lived here, and when I lived in Vancouver, and she cut my hair like super short, and I dyed it too. It was like streaks of blonde. Like I did everything. Like it was like, might as well do it all at once. At the time it was relaxed, so it was kind of easier to manage. And then I came home, and my mom hated it. She was so upset with my hair being short because traditionally, as we all grew up, women have long hair to make us feminine. So I was just like, because I was really excited about it, and it was also a shock to a lot of my friends. They like looked at it and they were like, because I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. I was literally just like, I feel like cutting my hair. And everyone was just like, what happened? Like they were more like, they had to all get used to it. I think they did not like it. I think people just were confused. So, because they've never seen me with like such short hair, because it was like an inch long at the time. And then, yeah, so my hair journey has been interesting in that way. Like, I don't think I've had, other than like the kids bullying me, I don't think I've had anything serious, like other than that. And I don't want to call it bullying either, because I don't know if it was fully out of curiosity and ignorance, because I didn't get bullied to the point I'm like crying at home. It was more just like, stop touching me. I felt like more like a lab rat or like a zoo animal or something, more than like them trying to hurt my feelings, you know?
Totally. And I think it's probably the culmination of every single person, like always asking you, always like, oh. So it's funny that like you're talking about that, and in my head it popped in that like whenever someone compliments me on my hair, I immediately tell them, oh, it's not my hair, it's extensions. Like I will always like preface that.
Wow.
I think because of the times that I lost friends, and they're like, you lied to me, and I'm like, it's just my hair. So like when people give me compliments, like, wow, look at you grew your hair out so long. I'm like, no, I didn't. This is extensions. And I think it's like a twofold thing. It's like one, I'm Black, like Black women change up their hair all the time. You gotta know that. Like the general people gotta know that. So I'm educating you in our brief 2-second interaction. And then two, I think it's because like I want at some point when I'm ready to change up this hairstyle. I've had this hairstyle for like half a decade now. I just like get new extensions that like people aren't shocked again. Like it's not like and I think we're at a time where people switch it out. I remember this meme. I think we all have like shared it, when it's like a picture of like 9 different women, and they're like, if you dating me, you're dating 9 different women, and it's like different hairstyles, and like every single hairstyle is like a personality. That's like, it's so true. The minute you put on like a new hairstyle or a new wig, you are embodied in this, like, ooh, I'm like this short, sassy haired, like, oh, okay, cool. And then when you're lying, you're like, well, I'm luxury and this is who I am. And, like, I think in like bringing out these discussions too, it just helps with that ignorance thing. Like, I think in 2021 and 2021. Okay, 2021. I was like, oh my gosh, this is all 2020. And 2021. And, in this like discussion of like anti-Black racism, hair is definitely a focal point in discussion. And I think when we need to be normalizing this discussion, just so it's not like this taboo. I remember growing up, it felt taboo. I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, so I grew up in a predominantly Black society. There was like, we were the complete opposite, where the minority were all the white folks. And so in my primary school, because I specifically went to an all white primary school that was starting to like integrate Black families in there. I think there were like 5 Black families that had their kids in there. And so that was a bit weird, like changing my hair up. And my mom would do, like, in my opinion, the most like functional look. It wasn't always about appearance. It was more so functional. And so what she would do, I think it's kind of similar to yours, Nataizya, is she'd take wool and she'd like part your hair, and then she'd like, the same way that people will do like cornrows, she'd do that but with wool. And so your hair was like all wool down and stuff like that, but it was just functional, like I'm saying. So it was like big chunks of pieces, like there was no cuteness to it, there was no like fancy pants. And I remember the one time she did it and I was in high school. And I thought to myself, I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to like take it out and comb my hair, and I overslept. And so I went to school, and we used to call it Benny and Betty. That was the name of their hairstyle. And so I went to school with that, and I was just mortified. Everybody was just like, what is happening on your head? And I was like, nothing. Don't worry about it. And then funny enough, I think as like, obviously we started to own our own cultures and our own languages again, especially in schools. They started teaching like all of the African languages, at least of the South African languages, started becoming available as second languages. So it wasn't just Afrikaans anymore and stuff like that. People also started to change like the way that they would dress themselves and the way that they would do their hair. Like we saw kind of this whole like shift into more of like a natural hair thing. And I guess I didn't really realize it until now, is like that even played in our predominantly Black societies and schools, was this look of like, oh, I want to model the straight hair and stuff like that. I used to relax my hair all the time. But I also used to do like, everybody had extensions and braids and stuff like that. So I think it's probably a bit different in the fact that everybody did it. You just had to be the best of the best. Like it had to look great. And that's what the biggest challenge was. Like if your track was lifting, or like the worst is when you're walking or like around school and somebody finds your braid, and then they like will bring it to you, and they're like, we found this. It's the pits. And so like that was kind of the different hair challenges, I would say. It's more so around trying to be the best of them all. And then obviously coming here and working in corporate and being the only Black person on the floor or one of 2, and then my hair changing a lot, and people are like, oh my goodness, you grew your hair so fast. And I was honestly, the first couple of times I was like, if you're going to be ignorant, I'm going to ride this ignorant train with you. I'm going to tell you that I grow my hair every day. My hair grows every week. It can change. My hair can be this short to this long to purple to pink. Like this is all my hair, and I am changing it as I please. And people really believe me. And it's like, I just also kind of feel like how I'm not going to say it, but you know what
I know what you're going to say.
Like how that's crazy for me. Like, are you deliberately choosing not to? Or are you like, and how can that be out of your scope so much? Like,
yeah.
People, and then the audacity to like come up to me, and just because my hair's changed, you want to touch it? Oh, the amount of people I had to tell to step up. They were just like, then they started like being on the other side of the room telling me that my hair, oh, Palesa, oh, your hair looks great. Oh, yeah. Oh, thanks. It's no longer like, oh, let me see. They're just like from afar. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Carry on with my work. But it's wild.
Oof, I remember that, the braid falling out and some cute guys like, is this yours? Dead, deceased, just like, no, thank you. I think it's really interesting though, like, because I was the only Black person, I could leave my tracks, I could leave my hair in forever, and still like non-Black people be like, oh my gosh, your hair is amazing. At home, my sisters would be dragging me, you gotta change your hair. It's lifting. Like, what are you doing? Like, the only people who call me on my bullshit was my sisters, because we all knew, but nobody else knew. So I was like, I'm gonna finesse these people into thinking this hair is gorgeous.
I've done that before too, for sure. Because it's so easy. They don't know. And so it's just like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, well, I don't really have money to buy a new weave right now. So let me just like waste this time. I'm like, no one noticed. You can just like a little bandana here, a little head wrap here. Like, they don't notice at all. I'm just like, wow, almost like making it look so different. It's like, I do. I know. It's very creative. I would definitely.
I'm an artiste.
Yeah. So I was like you, plus I'm at the point where I'm just like, yeah. Like, I just go with it. I'm just like, you can't be this ignorant at this point. So I just didn't care. But the braid thing happened to me multiple times, especially like people would find it in my car. Like, they would get into my car and like, what's this? And I was like, especially it was like my white friends or like people that just didn't understand. I mean, there were still some Black people that be like, what is this your hair? When like, I remember even like I worked at Home Depot for a while, and like, I think my hair, like, you know, when you're like, trying to like bunch your hair up or like put your hair in a ponytail, and then you'd be like, yeah. And you're like, oh, the braid, let me just put that in my pocket. Like, all the time. Even if it was class, like, I would always do it in class too. I'm like, oh, let me like fix my hair.
The funny thing is, like, my mom would always be wondering, like, why is there braids in people's jean pockets? Because that's where they'll be. I'll be like, nope, okay, tucking you in here. And sometimes I'll even be in the bathroom, like, okay, we're just gonna fix this one here. I'm like, these are the wrong jeans. This is not where I keep the stash. Okay. I can't really fix them today. It's really magical and like so fun to be a Black person with our hair chronicles. Like, it is so much fun. It could go either way, obviously, and like, you know, everyone's perspective is different about it, but you could do some magical things, some absolute magical things. What is I guess, you know, having gone through that relationship with our hair when we were younger, how are we with our hair now? Especially like Al said, right? You were today 8
years old.
Yeah. when you realize that. So what kind of a relationship do folks have to their hair now?
I'm always on the verge of thinking, you know what? This is the time I'm going to take out my hair and I'm not going to put in any more extensions. I'm almost ready to like do that natural hair like journey and start it. But it's always so funny. It feels like whenever I'm about to be okay about like the natural hair journey or changing it up so it's a shorter look, the universe sends people and they say, oh my gosh, your hair looks so amazing. Like, it's so long and beautiful. Like, every single time, like in the week before, I'm like, I'm contemplating it. And then I just decide to like keep it. So I think I am at a better place in embracing my hair. It's like it's a piece of you, right? It's the way that you showcase your personality. It's the way that you showcase yourself. But I'm always a little apprehensive because I worked as a nurse for a long time. So efficiency is always my key thing. I work 2 jobs, like volunteer. So it's like, I need to have hairstyles that are fast and like I can throw up. So when I think about, you know, natural hair and like cultivating that and like curating my own hair, it seems like a lot of work. So I'm like sitting in this like little bubble of like, I'm almost ready, but like, meh. And when I lived with a Black woman, my friend Misha, she was going to get me on that path, and then it just didn't happen. And that makes me sad because I don't know what my hair will look like now. But yeah, I think I'm like, I love my hair. I don't hate it, but I'm curious to know what else I can do with it.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting for me is like, as you were talking, you were mentioning the natural hair journey. And I find it so interesting because, you know, obviously natural hair journey for me means, you know, having your natural hair out and kind of wearing it out. But I also think that, you know, you and your protective styling, you're still on your natural hair journey because you're no longer straightening your hair, is my assumption. You're not straightening it, you're not perming it, you're not like, you know, fiddling with the curl essentially. So you are on your natural hair journey, but it's just that you're always in protective style mode, which I think is fair and I think it's okay. But I get where you're going. Yeah, that was just something that was in my head, like, that's really interesting. That's really interesting.
That's really like insightful. I always forget that like a protective hairstyle is part of your hair journey. It's part of your natural hair journey. I think because I've been doing it my whole life, that like it doesn't feel like it counts. Like when I watch all these YouTube videos, I'm like, it's wash day, and they're like it's like an 8-hour day, and it's like all the things that they put on their hand are like beautiful and like doing the thing. I'm like, I don't do that, so I guess I don't count. Like that doesn't count for me. So yeah.
No, yeah, I agree with Palesa. Like every time you're wearing protective hairstyles, it's your natural hair journey. Because I went through the same thing right when I stopped relaxing my hair, and I was doing like the braids or the crochet braids or like anything but I was protecting my hair because I was growing out my relaxer. So it's still, yeah, it is the same thing, and it's hard. I mean, this could be a whole nother podcast, this topic, but like you talked about, like the hair wash days and all that stuff. Because I mean, I have short hair now, but it's still like, I don't know what my texture is. Like my texture changes. And I think because I also relaxed it, like I have different textures in my hair. And then I see these girls with like, oh yes, like my natural hair. And it's like super like afro-y and like curly. And I'm like, that's so nice. Meanwhile, mine's like half straight, half not. I don't know what product to use. Like I'm trying to use your product, but it's not how it looks like. Like I'm just like, why is it a struggle? And I'm just like, so anyways, I get it, but I get so frustrated watching those videos. It makes me more angry because I'm like, what about us who just struggle? Can someone like make a struggle video so we can all feel the same? Like,
that's right. That's so funny that everyone that you watch has a high-pitched voice. They're just like, when they're like, I'm like, wow, that poor person. Ooh, damn. Damn. It's a cow. You know what? To be fair, though, I think that more and more, one of the influencers that I follow, she talks about hair, Chidzi. She talks about hair quite a bit, and like she talks about all of the different textures of hair. And I think hopefully that's where the conversation is going to lead to, is like the fact that knowing your texture is great, but you have different textures all over your hair. Like I have different textures all over my hair, and I think probably the reason why a lot of people struggle to find the right product for it is because you need 2 different products for those sections of your hair. Sometimes a custard works better, or sometimes one that's not so custardy works a lot better. And I think it's trying to do more of a combined effort. So that's what I do. I have like 4 different products. So one is like I have a leave-in conditioner, I have an oil, I have a hair moisturizer, and then I also have another hair moisturizer, which is a little bit different. It's a lot more like watery, and the other one is just like really hard and dense, like what shea butter would look like. And I use them alternating because when I use the one, it didn't really work for all of my hair. When I use the other one, it didn't really work either, but combining them works a lot. You can watch some of my videos if you want to know how to take care of your hair. But it's a struggle. Like I don't want to wash my hair sometimes because wash days are long. And the longer that your hair gets, for me, I feel like it gets better because I have to do less separations and less parts, but still it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of time to gear yourself up for it. It's a lot of time to motivate yourself to do it. I want to do the cool curls and be like, oh, my hair's coming out. Then I'm like, but I have to do a silk press. So in my head, I want to have all these hairstyles and accessibilities, but I can't. And then also thinking about like silk press, is it going to stay in or is it going to damage my hair? Is it going to do all of this stuff? It's a fun journey for me, but I do feel like it is also a kind of a full-time job, and fairly, right? It's not like, oh, it's a full-time job, I hate it. It's like, it's a full-time job. You do have to dedicate and commit to it, because consistency is what will help. Same way consistency will grow your business and all of that other stuff. So it's a trip, but that's why I did this little cute look here. I was like, I'm sick of this. Sam's like, oh, leave your fro. I'm like, if you're gonna wash my hair, we can leave it. If you're not, leave me alone. Thank you very much.
I like that one. It's cute. Let me see. What is my hair journey now, or self-love? I think for me, like post car accident, I was relaxed. I stopped relaxing my hair, and then I had the crochet things in my head, like the kind of like yours, the twist. And then so we got into the car accident, and then I wake up. Obviously, there's like shaved my head, and I was like, what is this? And like I had like the scar and like the hematoma and stuff, so I couldn't really do anything. So I was like, oh, okay. Like I was like more confused what to do, and I didn't mind it being like shaving my head after, because I had short hair before and it had just grown out. I was trying to grow it out, and so it was like kind of that awkward, like there was like this patch of hair here that like had nerve damage, but then like was gone, but then my hair was still long because I was growing it out. So I was just like, I couldn't really do much with it, so I just cornrowed around it. And then I couldn't do too much. I had to get like a custom wig or whatever to like fly and like to get passport picture, because people stole my passport. That's another story. So anyways, so then we had to do that. Went to the salon in Zambia, and that was also awkward because people kept being like, oh, like what happened to you? Like they're still in, and like I'm just like, I don't want to talk about this because it literally happened 2 weeks ago. So I was just like trying to be like not self-conscious about, like it was pretty obvious of a thing on my head. So I tried to like wrap it because it's also in the sun, so you can't really have your hematoma out. So then so I got back to Canada and I was like, what do I do? And I didn't know what to do. So we got like, my sisters bought me some wigs. So I'd wear those, but that's like, I still missed having really short hair. And then I couldn't really have it out because I was so self-conscious of like how big the scar was that I'm like, oh, and then, because I didn't want to explain myself every single time to people. And so now I feel like it's not as noticeable anymore. Like it's noticeable to me, but people say it's not as noticeable, so that's nice. But I think sometimes that's why I have a struggle wearing out my natural short hair, because I love having my short hair, but it's hard sometimes because I will look in the mirror and I'll be like, oh, the scar is just so big. And then I can't braid my hair because there's too much nerve damage, so it still hurts and it's still painful. But it's like this weird, like, so then if I wear wigs, but then if I wear wigs too much, they hurt my scar, and then it inflames and becomes something else. It becomes its own monster, and it'll like turn red and like throb. And I'm just like, oh, like I can't win. So that's why I'm like, I'll switch it up with like, I'll wear wigs. Sometimes I'll wear my short hair while I'm trying to grow it out. And then I'll wear like head wraps. So at work, especially like when I first started that job, everyone was like, oh, you are like, because one day it was like, I was just wearing short wigs, and then I showed up, I think it was like a completely like longer wig. And they're like so confused. And they were just like, what's happening? And then I was like, let me sit down with you. I was like, I'll be showcasing multiple wigs. And I literally was like, just so you know. And I literally sat them down. So I think one time there was like, because some wigs, depending what they are, like the track can come out if you brush it. And I guess one of the tracks had come out in the bathroom and I didn't know. And then someone was like losing their hair. I don't know if it was one of our clients. And I was like, what? And so then I went to the bathroom. I was like, oh, that was me. It's just my track from my wig. They were like mortified. They were like, they just didn't understand a wig anyways can shed, but it was a thing. So I feel like I'm in an interesting journey. I'm like trying to learn to love my scar with my hair. And I don't know if it'll reach that point, because I feel like my hairline has gone back because of it, because they had to like shave so much that it's like it has to grow back. So then sometimes I'm like, I love the short hair. And then sometimes I look at it, I'm like, I look like an old man receiving hair. So it's like this weird, complicated journey. Like sometimes I'm like absolutely in love with it. And sometimes I'm like, oh, let me just put this wig on. And sometimes it is practicality. I'm like rushing out the door and I'm like, I don't feel like, because with short hair, you do have to do it. Otherwise it looks unkept. Like you can't just be like, here's one little afro. Like it has to be kept. Yeah, because it's like you can't braid it. Yeah.
I always forget they have a scar. Like I actually don't see it. I never. Yeah. I was just thinking about it right now. I'm like, I actually don't remember ever seeing it. Like I know that you pointed it out at some point, but I don't remember it because in my head it's, yeah, Yeah. So it's funny because when it's you're just so self-critical and you can see every single thing. Like when I was laughing about like you looking like an old man, I'm like, it's farthest thing. You don't look like a little old man. And like I wasn't trying to invalidate you, but it's always so interesting. Okay. I was looking at Palesa and she was like concerned. I was like, oh, I look like a jerk. I'm laughing at you. I wasn't trying to laugh. It's just so interesting when people like self-reflectively are so critical whenever anybody else looks at you, you're like, wow, gorgeous, chef's kiss. You know what I mean? So it's like also like us and that self-love and like have our hair be a part of that self-love journey. Intertwined. You can't separate the two. It's just not possible.
No. Yeah. I really like it. And I think, this can even be another topic, but I've always had a good relationship with beauty and like making myself look pretty so I can feel pretty and feel pretty. Then I do things to look pretty on the outside, if that makes sense. And I've noticed there's been a swing even with my hair and that, like, what kind of a woman are you if you have an afro, right? Because then society will treat you a different way. What kind of a woman are you if you have braids, right? What kind of a woman are you if you have braids and you wear a headscarf? And like, what are all these identities that you have to be staying in as opposed to like playing with it? And I think for me, that's why I've developed this relationship with my hair, especially braiding it and being able to braid it all kinds of random colors. Like when I did those like lock looking like white braid things, I look like Storm. It was fantastic. And everyone was like, whoa, you look so great. And I was like, all in a day's work, boo-boo, all in a day's work. So like things like that, I really love doing that. And I love kind of challenging myself as well. Because when you look in the mirror the first week, you're like, why?
Yeah.
Who is this? Why did I do this? And then you're like, oh, actually, then you kind of challenge your own idea of beauty and even your own beauty. So I don't know, maybe I'm being too poetic about it, but I really like that experience.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like even now, like I'll have fun with wigs because before I was like just doing it to cover it, to be like, oh, I'm just doing this as practical things. Like because I was like, I didn't want to be, that's my struggle is I didn't want to be the girl again who wears wigs. Like I ended up like feeling reverted back to like growing my natural hair to being back to the wig girl. And I had a really hard struggle because then I'm like, I don't feel like I'm black enough. I don't feel like, you know what I mean? Because like the whole natural hair journey was like coming out that time. And then I was like, and then I'm back to wearing wigs. So I was like, okay, I'm that girl again. But then I had to be comfortable with the fact that I can switch it up at any moment and still be who I am as a person and have fun. So that's when I was like, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to do a whole bunch of different hairstyles. And like, that's when I got the Storm like white wig too. And I was like, I love this one so much. I was like literally in my room being like, yes.
I was gonna say, like, that's one of my favorite wigs on you, like that, like blonde. Yeah. Oh, it's like it looks so good. Yeah.
I'll like highlight next podcast to be like, hello.
Yeah, you should do it, please. We should all play up our hair somehow. Like, Elle, you should do a big bun on the top of your head, and then
you taught me how to do that thing on top with like the wrap for the Christmas party, and I was like, oh, I gotta go back and look at that video that you made because that's how I kept doing it, and I haven't done it in a long time.
It looks so good.
Thank you. And also, Palesa, you have started doing people's hair, and I think that's also like a really cool thing. Like, I love us so much, and I love how like getting our hair done in general is like this act of like love and resistance and bonding and community care. Like Tracy Ellis Ross, she like made it like was narrating a video, and I saw it recently, and she was talking about like the love that goes into getting your hair done. And it's like, oh my gosh, like people don't understand, like when you sit in between someone's like legs and they're doing your hair, like wow, like and you're chatting, you're talking, it's so meaningful, right? So like it's almost like when people like are like when you get a tattoo, you want to be like mindful of who's doing a tattoo because it's like very like bonding. Like when people do your hair, it's a bonding experience. So like I'm excited for Palesa to do my hair at some point. That's all I'm saying.
It's really awesome, and I think I was a little bit like self-conscious about my ability to do other people's hair and like if they're gonna like it, but it wasn't even about the ability to do the hair. I think the most self-conscious I was about is the atmosphere. Like, do I have the right atmosphere, the right balance of things in my space for people to feel comfortable to be here for that long, right? Because especially when you're doing it in your apartment, obviously the COVID restrictions, folks are going to be in your space for about anywhere between 4 to 8 hours. And it really depends on, their experience of you. If they'll leave reviews, for example, if I wanted to be, that person who owns a hair thing, things that you need to think about. But for me, it's like, also, do I want this person in my house? Like, I would rather not do anyone's hair if they're going to bring like a crappy vibe to my place. And I noticed like I was so intimidated to do the hair for the people that I've done their hair. And they're the most chill people ever. And I was like, what? And that's also part of what got me into trying to do a podcast, was like having these conversations with people when we're doing the randomest thing, like hair. People will talk to you about the craziest things that they've done when they're doing hair. Also because it's like that one-time opportunity, and I don't know, it's weird, but I absolutely love it. So once the restrictions are down, hit me up. I'll do your hair and bring the ambiance.
It's so true. I mean, I feel like a podcast episode could be alone, like Black hairdressers, or going to houses with like people and their million children, or going there and you're staying over somehow. Like the horror stories I've had, like not even me, like other people, I was just like in shock. I'm like, how did you stay? Like at that point I would just unbraid my hair and just be like, bye. Like I'm not like that could be its own topic.
We should do a hop on it on this.
Yes.
I was gonna say that. This is people dating and hair, eons of hop on it can be done. Eons, all of them. Yes.
I like that all of a sudden you're sleeping over 100%. You're like, oh, la pants. Hey, you can sleep on the floor. Like, lady, I know I wasn't even supposed to be here for 10 hours, let alone a whole sleeping situation. What on earth? But I think it's also really, for me at least, the times when I've slept over, it's been people that we know. So like it's a family friend, and so I can sleep over there and stuff like that. It's never been in a strange person's house, but definitely the baby thing. Like somebody will know that they have a hair appointment, or even the earliness. You have to arrive at 6 a.m. in the morning for somebody to start your hair at 11. Like, why am I here to watch you do someone else's hair? I don't.
Hey. We have to stop because this is a whole podcast.
I know. I was like, we have to be like prelude to the next episode.
Okay. So in terms of our takeaway, as we wrap up this episode, what is our takeaway? I'm going to start with Nataizya.
My takeaway is actually doing this conversation was therapeutic for me. I haven't actually had a talk about hair in a long time, or my own hair. And I noticed that if I do have to talk about it, I get defensive because I'm still like I'm still struggling with that. And so this was a nice conversation to kind of be like, oh, let me actually talk about what my feelings are with my hair. And so, yeah, that's my takeaway. I think that learning to that I'm still on the journey. I think I'm always like, I should love it by now. I should love my scar by now, but I'm just not. So I think it's like, it is a journey.
Yeah. Wow. Palesa.
What is my takeaway? Ooh. I think my takeaway is that I think my takeaway would be more of like a reminder for other people, and even myself sometimes, about, that the natural hair journey also includes all of the little things you do in between, right? Whether it's wearing that wig, or, doing the braids, or, doing the crochet, like all of that is part of your natural hair journey. And I think if we start to define the natural hair journey, why can I not say hair? The natural hair journey as something outside of wearing your natural hair. I mean, that plays a really big part in it as well. And I think, that's that being visible to do it, or actually just taking care and having that relationship with your hair. And like, y'all have a natural hair journey, like love it and do it up. And like, I don't know, do crazy hairstyles. Let's have fun. Let's start to play more and like really, get into it. Let's all be blonde. Yeah. Do it.
So, side note, when you guys talking about your like platinum or like white gray hair, I was like, should I do that? And we all like take a picture and like do that? Anyways, I'm just going to put that out there. My takeaway, wow. I think it's just knowing that like all the things that I've gone through, even though they're unique to me, they're not so unique to me. Like everybody's had a little bit of experience. I think a takeaway is like just like the embodiment of feelings when I heard your stories, because I just like my body remembered me being in that specific situation, like the braid. And like I think that my record for how many braids I had stuff in my jean pocket, I think was 6 at some point, and being like, oh my gosh, that didn't just happen to me, it happened to everybody else. So like my takeaway is like, okay, I'm not on it alone. Like I'm not on this hair journey alone. Like we all are still like dealing with how to navigate workplace issues, how to navigate the world in general, perceptions, our own self-love, self-worth, and being tied up in our hair. So I was very appreciative of this conversation. And it's easy to have this conversation with you because like you guys are like my best friends. So it's like easy enough to do that, right? So I'm excited to continue this discussion. I think it'd be cool if we brought people on like who do hair and talk about like, especially like different hair textures. I think I'm very excited for that as well. So
yeah.
For sure. I mean, it's nice because it's like we talked about with hair, it's like it's going to have its own multitude of episodes anyway. So this is just part 1 of many hair chronicles that we'll talk about. But we might as well start the conversation now. But it's been great hearing your stories. And I'm excited to hear kind of other people's stories too. Hopefully people comment below and let us know, or if you're listening on Spotify, let us know what you think about this episode. If you have any suggestions of what else we can talk about. But it's been lovely talking with both of you. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It's always amazing to get an opportunity to chat with these lovely ladies. So if you're looking to follow us off of the podcast and you're looking to catch up with some of the content that we have, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube, all at Black Women Connect Vancouver. And we also have a website for you at blackwomenconnectvancouver.com, which is where you can sign up for our mailing list and our newsletter so you can keep updated with our growth and all of the other events that we have planned for you. Catch you later. Bye.